Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 4 of a critique, not a critique of Star Wars Last Jedi, but basically my takedown of Major Lee's The Last Jedi is amazing and you are all insane, which, something I would love to point out right off the bat, has a tagline in the description box said, "I'm ashamed to be a member of the human race." You're ashamed to be a member of the human race because they don't like a movie that you happen to like. That is the most subpar, inane reasoning to not want to be a part of the human race. You could be talking about, like, slavery. You could be talking about genocide. You could be talking about so many other fucking things. You could be talking about racism and sexism and stuff like that. Inequities in modern society. But you're not going to say that. Instead, you're going to say it because, oh, a couple people don't like this movie that I like. Are you fucking... You are a idiot if you think that way. Oh, I'm ashamed to be a member of the human race. Because no one likes this movie. Really? I mean, Jesus fuck... God. Anyway, that ran aside. We're going to continue through this little escapade of a thing. 2 more parts. Parts 4 and 5. So, here we go. We left off as talking about the themes and the subtext, which, if you watch the film, is basically pointless by the end, because even if it is a lasting theme throughout the movie, it doesn't, let's just say that it doesn't, stick to its own guns when it regards to its own little subtext of themes and such, and all the like that. So, basically, let's get back into this, and hopefully I won't blow my brains out.
Along with some surprisingly dark and complex character arcs that went right over people's heads, just like the Rebel blockade. Luke and Kylo had no relationship in the last film. It was all just exposition. We didn't see their dynamic. And many people wondered how the hell somebody could turn bad under the supervision of Luke. Well, The Last Jedi answers that question and reveals that Luke is actually much more responsible for Ben Solo's turn to Kylo Ren than we thought, and all because he was just trying to prevent it. Now,
Okay. Now, there's something I have to say about that right off the bat. There is a defense of Luke's character in The Last Jedi, and Major League just basically spelled it out here, that Luke was trying to stop Kylo from being Kylo. He was trying to stop Ben from being Kylo. He's trying to keep him from turning into the all-powerful emo kid that Snoke wanted him to be. But there is also a defense of that by saying that Luke turning evil for a split second in order to kill Kylo as a preemptive measure to make him not murder a bunch of people, and then, like, kind of saying no at the last minute, was like a big character defining moment, and that is what helps make Luke such a great character in that film, in this film. That's lunacy. You want to know why? Because it contradicts every single decision he made in the original trilogy. Everything about his character was about family. And he wouldn't just give up after 2 fucking seconds of looking into his brain to say, oh, hey, this entire thing, remember how in the original trilogy I saved my father from falling to the dark side at the end of his life, because he was my father and I had an emotional attachment to him. And the entire point, one of the big points about me as a character was the importance of family. Oh, fuck that. I'm gonna kill this motherfucker because he's having a bad dream. That's essentially it. There's a meme going around here that basically describes that entire situation. It says, oh, this Nibba having a bad dream. Yeah, I'm using Nibba because Nibba. It's a good meme. Alright, basically the N-word has become a meme. Short little rant. Whatever. Let's move on. Basically, that is a dumb defense to make of Luke Skywalker's character portrayal in The Last Jedi, is that, well, a bunch of people are going to say, well, it was unexpected, and honestly, I would have liked that. I like that in theory. Alright, and I would like a thing where Luke Skywalker was like a fallen Jedi and stuff like that, as a gray Jedi and stuff. There was stuff in the EU about that Ryan tried to use to troll the fans with, and failed miserably at because it was decanonized and has not been brought back in the slightest. So there's that. And basically, it just, like I said, it just contradicts everything Luke did with his character in the original trilogy, and we don't get to see it. That's one of the big problems that Mahler brings up, is the fact that this was 30 years. We haven't seen Luke for 30 years, and one of the things that... and he turns out to be the one responsible for a lot of the shit that's going down in real life, including the destruction of 6 planets, because he didn't understand what was going on with Ben for some reason, despite, bringing Darth Vader back to the light before his death, in the moments leading up to it, basically defying the most powerful man in the galaxy at the time, because he did not want to become like Darth Vader, which is what he was becoming. That was one of the things that was kind of implied in that moment when Luke was, wanking down on Vader, when Vader was touring with them about Leia. So it's just, like I said, it's just inane bullshit, and that defense has no merit.
Whoever thinks Luke wouldn't do this is actually him following his Jedi training by abandoning all attachment. In Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan wanted Luke to murder his own father. I can't kill my own father.
Well, there is a difference. It's because Luke was evil. Alright? If you watch the prequels, which a lot of people are defending nowadays, Luke murdered fucking children. Alright? Luke murdered children. No, not Luke. Anakin murdered fucking children, man. Do you wonder why people thought? Alright, and then the last freaking moments of the Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan was trying to stop Anakin. Alright, and he pleaded with Anakin for a few moments to try to get him to try to dismay him from going along this path, but he failed. And as they fought, it was just harder and harder for Obi-Wan to, save him. And Obi-Wan realized that there was no saving Anakin because he was too far gone. Alright, yeah, it wasn't built greatly, but that's what it was. Okay? And to top that off, after losing his arms and legs and becoming more machine than man, as Obi-Wan says in that same scene in Return of the Jedi, which is what he's using in that clip, like I said, he was devoid of any and all real emotional attachment. Alright, the only thing Anakin really cared about at that point was Padme, and he was partially responsible for her death. And top that off, Anakin murdered kids. He murdered fucking children. A whole freaking room of them, and countless more probably, if you played any of the other video games and stuff, if you can mod it, I guess, or something like that, apparently. But, I mean, Anakin murdered people, murdered defenseless people, alright? And he murdered countless people. Okay? The only reason that Luke decided to save his father was because he was his father. Obi-Wan and Anakin were friends, but Anakin went to the dark side, and Obi-Wan tried his damnedest. He tried his damnedest to save Anakin, and he couldn't. And thus, he had no other choice. He had to face him. He had to kill him, okay? This is kind of like another Avatar reference here, considering, Avatar is basically the plot of Star Wars, just rewritten a different way. Aang didn't want to kill Ozai. Aang didn't want to kill Ozai because it was going against his moral convictions. Alright, and everybody around him, including the past avatars, told Aang to kill Ozai. And he said no. This is not how I wanted this to go. Alright, even the avatars that were airbenders told him no, you need to kill this guy. And it was only until he got to the Lion Turtles that he was able to find a medium in order to not violate his moral convictions and actually save the world at the same time. Okay? What Luke did was essentially what Aang did. He found a way through his through that moral conviction, did not kill him, and ended up saving him and ended up saving the world in the process. And I know he didn't exactly save Ozai's mental stability because, he was batshit insane by the end of that. But he was able to save his father. And he was able to save his father because his father, despite being one of the most evil men in the galaxy, was still his father. He was once a great Jedi Knight who fell to the dark side. Right, and despite what he had done to many people throughout the galaxy and to people he knew and loved, he was still his father, and that was reason enough to save his life. That was reason enough. Okay, maniacally attempting to murder Kylo, or at least thinking about it for a split second, even shatters every moment that Luke Skywalker spent in Return of the Jedi, trying to save his father from the dark side. That shatters every bit of that. That basically retcons the entire character of Luke Skywalker. He was a hypocrite and a liar. So fucking pathetic.
Good thing he didn't do it. But this is what the Jedi did. When they saw a Sith Lord, they thought that if you don't kill them, you'll join them. Especially if they're your dad. The fact that Luke chose not to murder his father was him redefining what it means to be a Jedi. And the fact that he chose not to murder his...
Redefining the Jedi by what the prequel set up before that, despite, coming after the fact. But still, like I said, they thought he was too far gone. Okay? Top that off, there was a lot of people, in the Jedi Council and the Phantom Menace wanting, the Sith brought in. Are you gonna ignore that key fucking plot point? That, they wanted to find out who the hell these guys were. They wanted to bring them in. One of the big things in the Revenge of the Sith was trying to find the Sith Lord that was kind of pulling the fucking strings in the entire fucking universe at that point. The guy who caused galactic civil war on a massive fucking scale to the point where even Coruscant was attacked at one point. Are you kidding me? The war that got out of hand so bad that the Jedi, in their hubris, ended up getting fucking annihilated because of the Emperor's planning and being able to somehow twist everything to his favor in order for that to happen. What are you talking about, sir? It did not redefine what it meant to be a Jedi. That was Luke as a character. It worked for him because of what we had seen from him in Empire Strikes Back, in A New Hope, and in The Return of the Jedi. You are ignoring key plot points in order to like this version of Luke Skywalker that we may have otherwise been without, despite how haphazardly it was put into effect in that film. And so instead of actually trying to look at it on its merits, you're going to say that you're going to wholeheartedly accept it and then bash a bunch of other people for not liking it because it ruins Luke Skywalker's character. Fuck off.
Nephew was him taking the final stand against the Jedi ways.
Bullshit.
It was too late, and when he realized Kylo murdered his students, that was the last straw for him. But I could analyze this scene forever. It's just so deeply layered.
No, it's not.
Premonition that Kylo would turn bad, the actual...
Deeply layered. We linger on that scene. On each scene for literally less than a fucking minute. Each scene we are shown Luke and Kylo interacting in the past is shown for less than a fucking minute. Okay? You cannot do a lot of good exposition in one fucking minute with two characters in a past sequence. You cannot. Alright, you can barely even do that with characters in a present sequence unless it, informs the situation at hand. This is something like, I will use the Terminator again, that the Terminator did very well, the original one. You had exposition, but it was happening during the chase scenes. They were able to do it without taking you out of the world. Doing with what Luke and Kylo, it wasn't taking them out of the world. You were actually finding out some stuff more about the world. And it was without an action sequence. But you don't linger on it for too long. You linger on it for 2 seconds. Top that off, Luke basically equates his failure with Kylo Ren to the failure of the Jedi Council, despite being two completely separate fucking situations. So it's just like, what? Ah.
Future, or was Luke getting a distorted vision from the dark side of the Force, or from Snoke? Any one of those could be true. And since we've actually...
It was obviously fucking Snoke. If you listen to the goddamn dialogue, what do you mean it could be? That's exactly what was inferenced. Snoke was in his fucking mind. Alright, and even if it wasn't Snoke, even if it was just the dark side toying with Luke, you know how dumb that is? This is the most powerful Force user, or son of the most powerful Force user ever conceived. A literal creation of the Force. And yet he doesn't know when the dark side is tempting him or not. Are you kidding? One of the most powerful sequences in Star Wars history is the sequence where after Luke cut off his father's hand, maniacally just wailing on him every 5 seconds until he managed to cut off that motherfucker's hand. The Emperor was cackling in the background. Wanting this to happen. This was what he wanted to happen. And then he said, "Take your father's place at my side." And then Luke looked at his robot hand and looked at Vader's hand and realized this is what he was becoming. He was succumbing to the dark side. He was subscumbing to temptation. The entire thing that he was trying not to give into, and that he was just about there to becoming a full-blown Darksider. But he stopped because he was not going to become like his father. He was not going to succumb to the dark side. Okay? There's a little something called the hero's journey, and that is what Star Wars is about, and it played it perfectly. This is not the hero's journey. This is a degradation of the hero's journey. This kills everything about the hero's journey. You cannot defend it like that. The man that we watched go through trial after trial after trial after trial, fail again and again and again and again and again, only to fight his way back up despite the odds, and managed to not only kill the Emperor, the man that had been oppressing the galaxy for over 20 years, but he was able to save his father. I swear, this video is just going to be me ranting about how much I hate the treatment of Luke Skywalker in this fucking tapestry of a fucking film. Motherfucker. Fuck!
Seeing Kylo murder Han, one could argue that turning evil was just his destiny. It's not even Luke's fault. And even though Luke was Mr. Perfect in Return of the Jedi, he was still tempted by the dark side and even channeled it to get the upper hand on Vader.
Yes. Yes, what he did. I have already said this like 20 times. And you're ignoring why are you all of a sudden bringing it back up after you've been fucking ignoring that the whole time? Top that off, Kylo going to the dark side. Okay, that could have happened. That could have been something Luke couldn't do. And that, alright, and honestly, that's honestly what I got from The Force Awakens, was that his own family, he could not stop his own family from turning to the dark side, and he left as a result. That would be more in line with his character, because he wouldn't want to kill a family member like that. Alright, honestly, that is the type of situation that I wanted. But instead, after failing, just absolutely failing to bring Kylo back to the light, or at least trying to stop him from veering off the path to turn to the dark side, he basically blames the entire Jedi Order for his problems, runs away like a little bitch, and stays on an island for about 10 years, after the galaxy's gone through a bunch of shit. And when he gets the Call of Duty, does fucking nothing. Basically does fucking nothing almost the whole movie. And even the part where he actually does something towards the end, it's still not anything. Because he just sits on his ass and says, "Oh, hey, I'm just sitting here. You're just looking at me through a projection." And that Kylo is for some reason stupid enough not to figure out is a projection. Are you serious?
This is one of the strongest, darkest, most honest scenes in the entire franchise.
Nope.
Luke just wanted to prevent Kylo Ren, but he accidentally created it.
which is dumb when you consider that he would not let that happen in the first place. This is Luke Skywalker, and even if it did happen, it would not be because Luke tried to murder him. Alright? Like we said, Snoke was getting in Kylo's head. Snoke was getting right into Kylo's head. Okay? And Luke was trying everything in his power. And it could have been one day Luke just looked a little bit too far in his mind. He was just trying to stop, and then Kylo finally figured out what was going on, and then he finally decided to snap. And Luke tried to stop him. He tried to fight him. Like what Luke said originally. He tried to confront him, and then he was beaten up. And he failed. That would have been a better explanation than what we got. I honestly would have loved that. Without the grumpiness that he had. Because, my failures are equated with the failures of a bunch of retards. Yeah, like that's supposed to make me feel better about the whole thing, about not seeing really much of exposition at all about the events that happened, 30 years, within a time span of 30 years I would love to hear about, the state of the galaxy. But I mean, better than nothing, but to be honest, The Last Jedi just fucks it up and makes it nothing. Because it doesn't really have much bearing on anything. Kylo is still Kylo, despite the fact that he was trying to work with Rey to make his own thing. And while it was rushed, it was a risk that was haphazardly thrown out the window in order to keep the First Order Resistance thing going. Top that off, the Resistance is left to at least less than 400 people. Okay, Luke, like I said, everything about his character was contradicted in The Last Jedi and was not done with any build-up or grace. It was just done haphazardly and stupidly.
That's phenomenally tragic, and it perfectly explains what was laid out in The Force Awakens. Also, this theme of the false future pops up again between Rey and...
Perfectly explained. No! Are you serious? That is not the facial expression that Luke Skywalker had on his face when he saw Rey holding his fucking lightsaber. Was not one of anger or travesty. It was one of remorse. He realized that he would have to come back to the call of duty. Okay? And while he may not have been emotionally ready for it, seeing something that he had not seen for years may have sparked something in him to come back. Okay, and like Mark Hamill said, his vision of a Jedi is that a Jedi doesn't give up. And that is exactly the vision that we got with Luke Skywalker. And there's something I want to point out here. There's a false dichotomy that people are trying to point out with people talking about Luke not wanting to give up. They're taking Mark Hamill's words and construing them against the fans by using the prequels against them. They will, like, I have seen dozens and dozens of people and, people on the internet sharing pictures of quotes saying, a Jedi doesn't give up, which is what Mark Hamill said. And then they will share, stuff about stuff for the prequels, where, Yoda went into exile, Obi-Wan basically watched over Luke, which wasn't really a failure, per se, but he was watching over Luke on Tatooine. And they were like, well, and then it was like, this invalidates your argument. It was like, well, but that was from the prequels. They took something that was pre-established in, the original fucking trilogy and threw it to the wind in order to have some deep meanings and shit and political subtext, because freaking George Lucas had a hard-on for George Bush at the time by calling him a Nazi and such. So there's that. Alright, and I just had really feel the need to point that out, that a lot of people who say that The Last Jedi fans are a bunch of idiots who don't know what they're talking about. How about you actually look about some context first before you actually start making stuff up in order to get at the people you don't like because they don't like this film.